Meeting Estimate and Taxation for August 21st, 2024. I'm Steve Brandt, President of the BET. At this time, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll so that we can verify the presence of a quorum.
Commissioner Fry is absent. Commissioner Bennett.
Here.
Payne.
Present.
Chuktai.
Present.
Vice President Priest-Stinson is absent. President Brandt.
Here.
There are 4 members present.
Let the record reflect that we have a quorum. I'll now offer the acknowledgement that we're meeting today on land that historically has belonged to the Dakota people. We'll now proceed to our agenda, a copy of which was posted for public access at the city's Legislative Information Management System, which is available at lims.minneapolismn.gov. Board members, the agenda for today's meeting is before us. Is there a motion?
I'd like to move the agenda for approval.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a proper motion before us. Any discussion? With that, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. The ayes have it. The agenda is adopted. Next is the acceptance of minutes from the May 22nd meeting. May I please have a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have proper motion before us. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The minutes are accepted as presented. Item number 4 on the agenda is the acceptance of public comment. Clerk informs me we do not have anybody signed up today to speak, but this is just a reminder that at any Board of Estimate meeting, it is possible to show up and sign in and speak on a matter on the agenda. And we will have a tax public hearing as a special item next meeting on September 11th at 5 o'clock. So I'll ask the clerk to, I guess we have no comments to receive and file. Item 5 on the agenda is an update on the Minneapolis Public Housing Authority levy that we requested be brought forward by the MPHA. It was postponed from a July 24th meeting since we didn't have a quorum. So we'll be receiving also a presentation from MPHA for their 2025 levy request, and I welcome Executive Director Abdi Warsami and his colleagues. Please go ahead.
Thank you, President Brandt and members of the BET. Today, I have with me, my name is Abdi Warsami. I'm the Executive Director and CEO of the Minneapolis Public Housing Authority. And we're going to give you a presentation on the 2024 levy deployment update and a 5-year tax levy capital plan. And with me today are Planning and Development Director of the Minneapolis Public Housing Authority, Laura Dykema, our CFO, Tim DeRose, and our Assistant Director of Administration and Communications, Drew Hallinan. And me and Laura will do the presentation, and we'll have our CFO and Communications Director as backup to answer any questions that you have. All right, so today we're going to give you, we're going to talk a little bit about the MPHA capital backlog. We're going to discuss the 2023 agency accomplishments, and then Laura will take a deep dive on the housing levy capital plan for 2025 and beyond. As you know, MPHA is the largest housing authority in the state of Minnesota. On any given day, 26,000 plus people are served by the work of the agency, and you are familiar with the 3 different activities that we do. We have public housing units. We also have deeply affordable family housing, and we also provide housing choice vouchers for families across the city and our region. Members of the BET, one of the biggest challenges that the agency has faced is addressing our capital backlog. Our housing stock comprises around 6,000 units located in 42 high-rise buildings, 736 scattered site homes, 184 row house units, and a 16-unit town development. We also added 84 units of deeply affordable housing over the last year. 40 of MPHA's 42 high-rises were built in the 60s and early 70s. The age of our single-family homes range from 1 year to 100 years. And I would like you to kind of focus on Glendale, which is celebrated its 70th anniversary last year. So what you have is aging properties, and you've had historical disinvestment from the federal government. Our capital backlog right now stands around approximately $260 million, with an average capital needs of $25 million. Now, historically, HUD has only provided around 10 cents for every dollar that we need, and that's why this capital backlog has accrued. Now, this $260 million is just to preserve what we have, not adding any additionals or any improvements. Just to preserve what we have, we need $260 million. And that has been the largest single issue facing this agency, and one that we focus on tackling. Now, the $260 million is an alarming number, but, you know, it's not all bad news. And let's talk a little bit about some of the accomplishments that we achieved over the last year. Last year, we got $5 million capital grant from the legislature, from the state legislature, to repair MPHA's deeply affordable family homes. And I think that was the first time that a housing authority in the state of Minnesota got direct appropriation from the state. We also have always been a high-performing agency, and last year we scored 98.5% on a 100 scale on the physical inspections. So this is HUD's annual public housing assessment system, and we scored 98.5%. We're very proud of that, and that puts us to the top 1% in terms of performance of agencies across the whole country. We got $4 million in new funding from the city of Minneapolis, so thank you, and Hennepin County to expand Stable Homes, Stable Schools. It's a program that we're very proud of. And now that program is in every elementary school in the city of Minneapolis. It started off quite small, but now we've developed it, and it's been very successful. We served more than 4,000 families have been served by the Stable Homes, Stable Schools program. We also got $1.3 million from Minnesota Housing SHORP to repair our deeply affordable family housing. And we also reinstated the housing levy, which is what we're here to discuss, a tune of $5 million a year from the city of Minneapolis. So again, thank you to the mayor and to the city council members for that historic investment in public housing. We celebrated last year, and we 100% occupancy now, 84 new 2 to 3 bedrooms, deeply affordable homes in 16 sites across the city of Minneapolis. And we helped 450 MPHA families receive around $800,000 in rent relief through the Hennepin County's Emergency Assistance Fund. Any questions around any of these slides? And I think you're familiar with some of this. And now, yeah, go ahead.
Several questions, as long as you stopped.
Go ahead.
Wanted to ask you about the capital backlog and its $25 million annual growth. As I understand it, right now, the only relatively assured sources of revenue you have to deal with that are the city levy of $5 million and $5 million from the state. And is the $5 million from the state time limited?
President Brand, members of the BET, the $5 million was just a grant. It was a 1-year grant that we received. The levy is ongoing money, but we also receive operating and capital funding from HUD on an annual basis. But that basically adds up to around 10% of what we need.
And I was aware of the federal money. Of course, it's historically been unavailable, inadequate. The score that you achieved on the annual inspection would suggest that the housing is in good shape, and yet, you're here to request money or to explain how you used the levy in order to improve it. It seems like those are two contradictory things, and I just wanted to. And maybe there are buildings that are far worse than the average score.
President Brandt, I'm happy to answer that question. HUD, REAC, and physical inspections look at properties a little bit differently than we look at our capital investments. For example, they're not looking at the plumbing behind the walls. They're not closely evaluating the building facades or the roofs. Some of the things that they're looking at is making sure there's outlet covers over the outlets, that there's not tripping hazards at the properties and things like that. So it's kind of like apples to oranges and how we look at the different physical needs of the properties.
So it's a more superficial inspection as opposed to a systemic inspection.
That's correct.
The fact that you have one thing I struggle with is that the fact that you have such a incredible backlog of capital needs, and yet you're adding new housing. Those things, again, I'm always been a big believer in taking care of what you have before you build something new. Could you tell me a little bit about what your strategy is in regard to that?
Yes, well, we believe that both things are important because we do have very long waiting lists for both family and high-rise units. And so while we do feel we need to make sure that we're investing in our current assets, we do feel that making sure that we're also addressing the community need for additional housing units, that we have to strike a balance.
And did you say that those 84 new units were scattered in various sites around the city?
That's correct.
Do you happen to know how many are in impacted areas versus non-impacted areas?
I don't have that off the top of my head, but we did build in both areas.
Thank you.
All right, so thank you. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand it over to Laura Dykema, and she will take care of the next couple of slides.
Thank you, Director Warsami. So the slide in front of you provides an overview of the 2024 approved levy budget, which MPHA developed with consideration of our 5-year strategic plan, as well as feedback from our residents. The plan incorporates health, safety, code compliance, and quality of life improvements. $2.5 million has been earmarked for MPHA's next high-rise preservation and new unit production project, which is located at 2 Northeast Minneapolis high-rises. The scope of work contemplated includes addressing short and long-term capital needs at the properties, as well as enhanced resident amenities and community spaces, energy efficiency upgrades, and a 4-story building addition, which will be adjacent to the 828 Spring high-rise building. This addition will house new resident amenities, but will also house 15 brand new units. Those will be 1- and 2-bedroom units, and all of those will be handicap accessible, which we don't have a lot of handicap accessible units at these high-rises, so it'll better serve the population. 828 Spring is actually an elderly designated building. A total of $1.25 million is dedicated to 2 scattered site infill projects, both located in South Minneapolis. These projects will replace 2 single-family homes with a total of 5 brand-new housing units. And at least 2 of these units will be fully handicap accessible. Again, we have a lack of accessible units within our family housing stock as well. And then lastly, $1.25 million will cover comprehensive elevator modernization at 2 elderly designated high-rises in North Minneapolis. These properties are home to over 450 residents who rely on these elevators for safe transportation to the upper levels of the building. Now I'd like to report on how we're spending and how we're deploying these resources. So as the board is likely aware, tax levy proceeds are delivered in 2 yearly installments. The first installment just recently received by MPHA in July. While the first portion of these funds were only recently received, the agency has done significant work and planning work to ensure that we can put these funds to work quickly. Details of that pre-work are noted on the slide. I'm not going to go through those details. But I will mention a few other things. Our development projects, even though we've been doing a lot of planning work, they do have longer planning runways than our capital investment projects, and therefore the funds earmarked for those projects won't be utilized until the financial closings and construction commencements start for those projects. All three projects are on track to close in quarter 2 or 3 of 2025, at which time those funds would be fully obligated. The 2 scattered site infill projects, of course, were momentarily paused. The planning work was paused on those, while the 2040 plan and some resolution around that occurred just more recently, but we have restarted the planning work on those projects. Our 2 elevator modernization projects are, however, well underway. We executed construction contracts for both projects this past winter, and materials were just recently received in June. Construction has started at one of the properties, and the second property will be underway at the completion of the first, which we're on track to do by early this fall. And both projects will be completed this calendar year yet. The agency is also hard at work at deploying other resources that it was able to secure over the past couple of years. Director Warsami mentioned some of those. This includes approximately $10 million in total resources for repairs in our CHR homes. These homes are scattered across the city and make up the majority of MPHA's family housing stock. Construction is well underway at multiple homes funded by the city's $3.7 million. This includes extensive rehab to bring 4 long-term vacant homes online, one of which will be, again, made fully accessible, as well as roof, window, and siding replacements at 19 other homes. This work is expected to wrap up late in 2024. MPHA is preparing to issue an invitation for bids on the $5 million in renovations made possible by the state of Minnesota. This includes the same types of exterior improvements, roofing, window, siding, those types of things at least 50 homes. We've also deployed a good portion of the $1.3 million also made available by the state of Minnesota. This is the SHORT program. This is for mostly interior rehab in the CHR homes. This is mostly kitchen and bathroom renovations that are difficult to do while units are occupied, so we take advantage of when units turn over and become vacant is when we go in and complete these types of improvements. I think, even though the slide says $800,000, I think we're at over $1 million in spending as of today. And then lastly, I'm happy to report that all of MPHA's 42 high-rises are now fully retrofitted with fire suppression systems. We actually had a celebration just recently at one of our final sites. That's a great accomplishment for the agency, and make sure all of our buildings are safe for our residents. So we're very happy, and we're very happy for the city and state and federal resources that we received to deploy that work. Before I move to our 2025 plan, I am happy to pause here if there's any questions on our 2024 plan and deployment.
Thank you, President Brandt. I do want to make a couple of comments since we're pausing. So this is a very thorough and exciting update, and the fire suppression piece that made the news, so that was, right? Yeah, I saw the thumbs up from the communications guy back there, and that's excellent. And I think that the way you guys have described, I think the need is really clear. And I get the impression, and I'm not sure about that, but that there's some new energy in the organization, no shade on the past, and that you've maybe had more rigor around developing and identifying capital needs, which maybe could account for some of that. They've always been there, they just weren't quantified in the way that they are now. So kudos to you for that, and doing what you can to make this transparent to the citizens of Minneapolis. So the only other comment I'll make, and I might comment on the next piece as well, but It's something that President Brandt mentioned, and it's about the development of new housing. When I read the report, I appreciate that there are some absolutely derelict single-family or scattered site housings that are even been mothballed or whatever. So it makes sense to replace those and then add more capacity or more housing. And in fact, there's one in my district on Penn that's gone in. That's nice. And so I think that right now at this stage it makes sense to add that, but the waiting list is a long waiting list and a large waiting list that I don't know that the carrying capacity for that much more public housing exists in Minneapolis. As I understand it, what do we have, like the second or third most per capita in the country, something like that? So I think it's not now, but at some point it might make sense to have some more transparency around the decision making about that, so that we make sure that we're taking care of what we have too. Because I think the condition and the state of some of the facilities is hard for the people that live there. And I'd like to see that come up a little higher. So those are my comments for now. Thank you.
Thank you. I will add one comment about our spring projects and our development. We are utilizing a fairly new tool made available by HUD called Faircloth to RAD. And that's where the Housing Authority has a certain number of public housing units that it has the ability to develop. It's based on a formula that was set some time ago. And the Housing Authority actually has quite a bit of Faircloth units, and we'll continue to increase that number every time we do a conversion. We know that we do not have the capacity to deploy that resource. So we're actually piloting this program at our Springs project so that we can first learn how it works with HUD, because it is complicated, but also learn how we could also work with other developers within the city for their own mixed finance developments where there's a mix of affordable and market rate units, and work with them to help deploy that resource for this community. So that is another way that we see that we could help both address that, but knowing that we don't have the capacity to do that. Abdi?
I want to add something with regard to some of the comments that were made in terms of preservation and production. For example, when we did the 84 units, we did them in 16 different sites. But what we did initially was take away 13, take offline 13 units that were not in good condition. So whenever we're doing this type of preservation work, we try to add where we can. The Elliots, we preserved 174 units, but we added 10 extra units. With this Springs development, we're preserving 200 plus units, but we want to add 15 units. So it's not just either or. So we do preservation, and that's the number one priority for the agency. Even our strategic goal says preserve what we have. So most of our effort, most of our focus is towards preservation. But we do, where we can, add new units. And I think we owe that to the 10,000 people on the waiting list. And in terms of, we're using all the tools that has been made available by the federal government. So you can hear of RAD or Faircloth to RAD. All of these tools are created by HUD in order to enable us to achieve our strategic goals, and we try to utilize them. And the decision making is very transparent. It's in our strategic plan. Our number one goal is to preserve what we have, but there has to be a production. And we also utilize relationships with local developers as well. So a lot of the additions that MPHA is making over the last couple of years has been through the partnerships with project-based vouchers. So a lot of our the units that are coming online are through partnerships with third parties. But we also have that ability to develop, and where we have that ability, we will take care as well. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
I have a couple of questions. Wondered when the last comprehensive rehab occurred at the Spring properties, and if you have a planning horizon for how long this one should be good for until it needs it again.
Yes, so it depends on how you define comprehensive. We did address some of the capital needs at the 828 tower We installed a fire suppression system. We replaced some of the plumbing. We did some unit improvements approximately 15 to 20 years ago. So we did take care of some of those things, but certainly not in a way that we're able to by utilizing the HUD tools that Abdi mentioned, by utilizing low-income housing tax credit, where we could put a significant investment into the property, but also enhance the property in other ways that we just can't do with the limited funding that we have. And so typically how these projects work is there's actually a capital reserve that's put into place so that you do have the dollars in the future to address capital needs as they come up, whereas that's not how it works in the public housing model. So it not only addresses all of the current and upcoming capital needs, but it also does provide that capital reserve to ensure that we do have resources to address capital needs in the future. Typically, though, a property needs to be recapitalized about every 20 years, though.
Okay. And I also wanted to ask you about Glendale. The presentation mentions that it's being considered apparently for historic preservation. Glendale has been a really tough nut for the agency to crack. I remember you were working on it at least a couple of years before I retired in 2016, and I think Rad was in the conversation back then even. What different strategies are you trying this time to make that happen?
Well, we've learned a lot about engagement. I know that this came up at last year's meeting as well, but we have learned a lot more about engagement. We have new staff. We've now been through a couple of conversions where we have illustrated to our residents that we do follow through on our commitments to them. And so it has built trust in the community overall. And I can say that we have started some very early conversations with our property management staff at the property, and they've indicated that residents are now ready to start talking again. They have seen us demonstrate our commitment and delivery on promises, and they are excited by what they've seen at the Elliott Twins and through the Family Housing Expansion Program and that project, and what kind of homes those residents now have. So I think that just by demonstrating and doing over the last 5 years, that is changing the tide.
Okay, and I might request a tutorial offline about Faircloth to Rad, bring myself a little bit more up to date.
Be ready to be confused.
All right. Okay, go ahead.
All right. Okay, so this slide is an overview of our 5-year levy budget for 2025 and the 5-year plan. Details for each project, for each year, and the projects we're proposing to fund are on the following slides. I'm not going to go through all of those slides. You'll have those details in front of you, but I will go over the highlights of and summary of our proposed plan. The plan does include additional resources to support the preservation and expansion project at the 2 northeast high-rises I just mentioned momentarily ago. So this is Dev 01 on this slide in 2025, so an additional $3.5 million in resources for that project. We also have some thank you, Abby. Also in 2025, we have a capital investment project funded, window replacement at a high-rise in northeast Minneapolis at $1.5 million. For 2026, we have another scattered sites infill project that we're proposing. So this will be similar to the family housing expansion project, but it's on a smaller scale. We're looking at 5 different sites, and this would be in non-impacted areas where we have single-family homes or duplexes that have a lot of capital needs, and replacing those at those sites with a total of 30 new units would be our goal, so sixplexes across those 5 sites. $2 million earmarked for that project. We have a couple of additional high-rise preservation projects, so this would be similar to the Elliots or the Springs. This would be primarily focused on preservation and property enhancements at 2 additional high-rises. We would, of course, look to see if we have opportunities to add units. These are at smaller sites, though, so it is going to be primarily a preservation focus. But we would, of course, look at doing other things, addressing other community needs like accessibility and things like that. Glendale, I'm gonna wait to talk about Glendale to the end because it does span across our 5-year plan. But we do have a couple of additional capital investment projects that we've earmarked in 2026. This includes additional high-rise elevator modernization, as well as boiler plant replacement. We did replace our boilers at our high-rises almost 20 years ago, but they're not energy efficient, and some of them are nearing their end of their useful life. In 2027, again, this would be additional funding for those 2 high-rise preservation projects, another window replacement project, and another boiler plant replacement project. And the rest of the years, we have similar projects, but in terms of Glendale, you will see that we have dedicated significant resources to that site over the 5-year plan, and that really it does illustrate our commitment to that property and those residents, and that it is a priority to us. While we really don't know what the vision is for that property yet, or ultimately what that redevelopment or development will look like, we do know that it's going to be resource intensive, and whatever we do will be guided by extensive resident engagement. So our funding request starts in 2026 to support that engagement work with our residents as well as pre-development work, and ramps up as we move into 2028, which is when we would target for the first phase of construction starting on a multi-phase project. So a total of $10.5 million dedicated to that site over the 4-year span. I'm happy to answer any questions the board may have on this proposed plan.
I think you can go ahead with 2025.
2020.
Okay.
I did
Okay,
include,
it's already
sorry.
done. All
Yeah.
right, good enough. It was seamless.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
All right. Any questions? Commissioner Benny?
Thank you. I would like to see an escalator on the levy amount, an escalator, an inflationary one, and I don't know if that's been discussed, and maybe this isn't the year to start it, but without it, that money that was hard fought for starts to just do this, even if it's to 2 or 3%. So I don't know how to make that happen or how to make the case, but I think that it's worth doing.
Thank you, noted.
Commissioner Jukta?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for this presentation, Director Warsami and Ms. Laura. Some questions for you. Last Wednesday, Mayor Fry delivered his State of the City address, and we saw the new recommended budget come out. And I think something that caught my attention was highlighting the fair cloth to rad piece that I just don't understand. I don't entirely understand what that means, and so I knew you were coming for this presentation today. I was hoping to get some more clarity. So can you actually start with stepping back just a few steps and starting with the Fair Cloth Amendment, which the way I understand it is like it's a federal regulation that limits the amount of public housing units that can exist within the geographic region of a public housing authority. And it's like arbitrarily set in the 90s or something like that.
That's correct.
And so And then you were answering a question from Commissioner Benet earlier and mentioned that, or maybe my understanding of what you were saying was that for the Minneapolis Public Housing Authority, there is a cushion between the number of units that Minneapolis has versus what is the maximum allowed by the Faircloth
Right.
Amendment.
That's correct.
And what's the discrepancy between those two things?
I think we're just under 900 units right now. And we were closer to 100 or 150 not that long ago. But when we did what's called a Section 18 disposition of our CHR portfolio, or our scattered sites portfolio, when we did that disposition and transferred those properties to our wholly controlled nonprofit CHR, which is MPHA, that increased our Faircloth Authority by that same number of units that we transferred ownership to. So now, every time we do a Section 18 disposition, or when we do a RAD deal, typically the RAD deals are called a blend, where there's a portion of the units that are deemed as Section 18 and a portion that are RAD. The portion of units that are deemed as Section 18, now when we go through the Springs project, that will again increase our Faircloth Authority by that number of units.
And so what's the essence of a Faircloth to RAD conversion?
So essentially, HUD developed a program because of federal regulations where you have to first develop the house or the home or the unit as a public housing unit in order to receive the subsidy. Now HUD understands that the public housing program, that there's issues with it, which is why they developed the RAD program. And so developers can develop the public housing unit, and once the building is constructed, a day later, you convert it to a project-based voucher unit, and it becomes a project-based voucher. But you still have to go through the same processes, HUD process and requirements of developing a public housing unit first. Now, the challenge with, and this relates to the mayor's request, the challenge with this is that a public housing unit and RAD unit doesn't get the same level of subsidy that we would normally get under a RAD conversion or a Section 18 disposition, because it's a brand-new unit versus a unit that is 50 years old, and so they calculate the subsidy differently. And so we get much lower rents or subsidies for those units, which ultimately creates a funding gap in our Springs development, which is why the mayor has proposed this additional one-time funding request to help us fill that gap for those 15 units.
So how is a Faircloth to RAD conversion different from just a normal RAD conversion or a Section 18 disposition?
All right, so
Is that question making sense?
So, Member Choktai and Board of BET. I was going to say Council Vice President, but member of BET. This is, the whole Faircloth is very complicated. And it's complicated because HUD's regulations are very complicated. And you mentioned earlier, Faircloth 1996, it was to stop any new public housing units coming online. But what they did is they calculated and said, this is how much, whatever you had in 1996, that's how much you have, right? You can't go over it. Mm-hmm. But then when you do conversions, and these conversions are basically from one platform of the housing code to another. So Section 9 is public housing, Section 8 is the vouchers. When you convert from public housing to Section 8, you lose some of the Faircloth, right? Through the Section 18 disposition. So then now, because we had is it 6,000 Faircloth Authority? Something like that. We converted a lot of the section.
Those 900 that you were talking about.
Yeah, so we converted a lot of and a lot of it comes from the scatter sites, because a lot of them we just moved them to Section 8, and we got a lot of subsidies. So again, it's just the whole HUD thing, right? They could give you the grant for Section 9, but they don't. So you get more subsidies with Section 8. So we converted to Section 8, but then we lost a lot of public housing, right? So the Faircloth went down. But we still have that authority. We're still allowed to get subsidies for those 900 units. But to unlock them, you have to go through this very confused process called fair cloth to RAD. And across the country, right, nobody has figured it out. Like, it's like there's only 30 or 40 developments across the country that are trying to do fair cloth to RAD. But that subsidy is there. So we have 900 units that could be subsidized, so we can get federal funding to continue for 900 units. But to unlock it, we need to do that capital. We need that extra. There's a gap in the actual development. So we are trying to demonstrate here, right? Our Springs development is an opportunity to demonstrate the fair cloth to RAD. So for us, it's an attempt, right, to see if we can unlock these subsidies with these 15 units. And when we did the math, we have a gap of 1.3 million. So when the mayor's office was asking, what is your priority? What we said was we need, on top of the levy, we need 1.3 million to demonstrate the fair cloth authority. So again, once we do this development, these 200 units, and we can put it together with this huge 60 million development, it helps us, right? What we want out of it is, if we can do these 15 units, what we find out is how much the subsidies was, how much was the gap, and then we can go back to HUD, we can come back to you guys and say, okay, to unlock this 800 units of fair cloth, what we're going to do is, these are the steps we need to take. So see this as a demonstration, right? As an attempt to unlock this subsidy and to make sure that because we have 800 units, right, that we can unlock, and we have how many people on the waiting list. So for us, this is, again, it's another federal HUD tool that we're trying to figure out. But nobody has really figured out fair cloth. And our communication director is trying to put together some sort of a statement, a simplified statement that human beings could actually understand, that we can share it with you guys as well.
So I think that's, so who's developing it? Isn't, because that's sort of the issue, right? That you're.
We are developing the Springs Manor, so that's an internal,
Yeah,
right?
the 15 units.
It's us.
Those are the brand-new units that are also associated with the RAD. Section 18 conversion for those existing units. But the new units, we would either have to place our own public or project-based vouchers within those units to make sure we receive subsidy, which we could do, but we also want to, again, utilize those for the broader community and other developers. And so what we're doing is using the Fair Cloth to RAD program to develop those units and then convert them to the project-based subsidy. It's just that the subsidy we receive for Fair Cloth to RAD is not the same as the project-based voucher award that we have for the rest of the portfolio.
And the fair cloth to RAD is lower than what you would, for,
Yes.
okay, yep.
And we could easily develop the 15 units using our vouchers, but it doesn't help us figure out how to unlock these 800 fair cloth units that we haven't unlocked. So for us, this
Totally.
demonstration is just to highlight where, how this fair cloth can be unlocked. And it could be maybe a partnership with the city or with the state or even HUD increasing these subsidies, because everybody's facing the same issue. I think we have 800. Chicago has 30,000 fair cloth units that haven't been unlocked. So this is a national issue rather than just us. And second of all, again, these tools, we didn't create these tools, right?
For sure.
We
Yeah.
would prefer to get a grant from HUD. It's much easier to deal with grant rather than RAD and LIHTC and all these tools. But, we don't have a choice. We have these tools available to us, and we have 10,000 people on the waiting list, and we have thousands of people in our housing that need adequate housing. So we're trying to figure all of these things out in real time, and it's really complicated. But we're making these attempts, just like we do with our preservation work, right? Just like we did with the sprinklers. It's piece at a time. But I think with the fair cloth, it's very exciting, and it's confusing, but it's very exciting because see it as a demonstration, right? It's not the final attempt. It's just, can we do it? Does it make sense? Is it going to be burdensome? If we're able to do it and we're able to, articulate how we did it, I think that's a very strong thing that we can take with the industry and other housing authorities across the country to say, Minneapolis tried it and did it. And that maybe that partnership between cities and the housing authorities is a way to go. Yeah.
And just like percentage-wise, or maybe on like using an easy round number to just help us understand the subsidy you receive for a fair cloth to RAD conversion compared to a project-based voucher.
Tim, do you happen to have those numbers on hand? 60%?
60%
Of the voucher, right?
Of the voucher.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Yep, yep.
Okay, significant.
Significant, correct. So even, the Housing Authority has this issue with the gap that it creates by not having high enough rents that, support debt and more equity coming into the project. So any other developer is going to have the same issue that we would have. And so again, this is a way to demonstrate, if the city were able to come, or other parties were able to come to the table with resources, we would be able to put this tool to better work in the community.
Thank you.
Seeing no further questions, I'll ask the clerk to receive and file this report. We thank you for your presentation. Apologize again for you having to come back from last month.
Thanks for having us today.
And if you get that simplified version produced, Mr. Hallinan, please send it my way.
Drew's on it.
Next, we'll take up 2 bonding resolutions. I'll welcome Ellen Hoppy from Finance to present the resolutions.
Good afternoon, members of the Board of Estimate and Taxation. I'm Alan Hoppy, Director of the Banking, Investment, and Debt Division in the Finance Department. I'm coming today to the board asking for the board to approve 2 resolutions. Both of them are used to help us sell bonds, basically. So we're getting the authorization to sell them, and then the other resolution gets into some of the mechanics that help us get the job done. I'm going to go into a presentation which kind of wraps around the resolutions. So of course, these are long documents, and I won't read through them, but we'll be open for questions here on the resolutions. Generally speaking, the resolutions talk about different parts of the type of bonding we're going to do, such as special assessments for individual improvements. We have some enterprise-type debt for water, sewer, et cetera. And then we have what are called net debt bonds, and those are 100% supported by levy or property taxes. Those different kinds of projects in those different groups typically are spread over 20 years of financing, and generally speaking, when the projects are all approved already by prior actions of the city council. There is one particular project that exceeded the finance policy for basically being put on, being stopped after 4 years if nothing has been done with that. And we've gotten that particular project reauthorized just here in the last few weeks. So everything that you see for projects should be active from an approval standpoint preceding this meeting on these resolutions. The bond resolutions include a maturity schedule, just for reference. I can guarantee that the final version will look different, but not dramatically different. It's just we go through the bonding process, and there's marketplace machinations that are happening with bond coupons versus market yields, et cetera. And underwriters typically bidding a premium, it kind of jostles the numbers around a little bit, but generally speaking, this is what it's going to look like for us. In this, I'm just scrolling through here, you can see the individual projects are listed. I can't blow them up too much, but you do have the details in the resolution there. So before I go to bring up the next resolution, are there any questions on this particular part of what we're requesting?
I have a couple of questions. Go ahead, Commissioner Payne.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was curious, and I'm trying to remember if this was in a previous presentation, what our bonding what this resolution, how this adds up relative to our total bonding capacity.
President Brandt and Commissioner Payne and board members, why don't I step out of the resolution here for a minute and go to the rest of the presentation?
Oh, great.
So I'll go ahead, and this is good timing for your question. I'll kind of run through the general rest of debt kind of stuff that we have here, and then we can come back to the resolution. So President Brand did ask us for some information a few months back, and I thought this would be a good opportunity to provide some of that information, and we will get to that question that Commissioner Payne has asked. In this particular case, this is a trend of tax-supported debt as a percent of tax capacity. So the bars, the blue bar and the green bar, the blue represents the tax capacity, and the green is the debt outstanding. And then we've done a percentage here. So the percentages are shown to you on the right-hand side of the page. And so generally speaking, relative to our tax capacity, debt has been, on a percentage basis, has been declining. So we're not, from that particular measurement, we're not overdoing debt per se or growing wildly. I think I missed this slide. So this one is somewhat similar. This is a trend of tax-supported debt as tax capacity. So again, the blue is your tax capacity. The green is the total tax-supported debt. And then you have the ratio on the right-hand side, or percentage, showing how we stack up. So you can see, understandably, left to right, we have the time, the last 10 years, and of course with inflation and other reasons, growth, et cetera, the tax capacity has been increasing. Yet the green would show you that debt has not been increasing proportionally. There is a bump in 2019, and that's with bringing on the new public service building. That was a major project. And from there, you can see we can kind of level out. And so the black line, which converts to a percentage, is kind of doing the same thing. It was coming down, bumps up with the public service building addition, and then from there, kind of flattens out.
Excuse me, Mr. Hoppy. we're hovering in the 20% range in recent years. Is there a industry standard or a governmental standard for sort of what's considered a sufficient amount of debt to replace, to keep your capital assets in good shape?
President Brandt and Commissioners, I don't have a number per se for that for you. Of course, any government entity that has a certain tax capacity has to live within that tax capacity, whether it's operations or debt or anything like that. I will come to a slide here in a minute that kind of gets at part of what you're asking.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to cover this page real quick. You've seen this page before. This is debt capacity. It's based on market value, 3.66, basically 3 2/3% of the legal debt allowed. For us, that's 2.4 billion, excuse me. And then from that, we subtract the tax-supported debt of the city. Dropping to the bottom there, we're using 11.5% of the legal debt. Okay, so this particular page kind of is connected to the one that you just saw. What we have here is the, just a minute, get this down here. The red line is an average of the ratios looking at the debt utilization. So we just saw 11.5% for the city of Minneapolis. And so, again, the charts get a little complicated because we packed it with a fair amount of information. You got the dollars on the left, and on the right-hand side, you got the percentages. So you see the the red line was the average of various communities. So we did a sampling of some of the local communities to see to what extent they're utilizing their debt capacity. And you can see it's, the city is pretty close to the average, and there's a couple different things I can say here from what I've seen in the past. In some cases, you get a new community coming up, and they have to issue a lot of debt to really get up to speed, to develop and get all the infrastructure they need. The city of Minneapolis is a well-developed city, and so we're kind of in a maintenance level. And so when you look at the names of some of these communities, and you may have some familiarity, you'll see that not always, but many times, their green dots, so to speak, are kind of in the same category as the city of Minneapolis. Any questions before I
Could one
continue?
infer from this chart that Maple Grove is doing their capital projects strictly on a pay-as-you-go basis?
President Brandt and Commissioners, we did not go back and investigate the individual communities. My familiarity in public finance and the city of Maple Grove, of course, for the last 4 decades ago, it was a new city relative to, say, the city of Minneapolis. And so, as I was mentioning before, there was a fair amount of money pumped into a community when it's new. And, of course, that debt gets paid off. The infrastructure might be funded with maintenance kind of things, but it may not yet have reached a level of replacement that the city of Minneapolis is at. Again, I haven't back-checked Maple Grove specifically where they're at, but I think that explains some of the indicators that you see here. It's not an absolute perspective, but it's, I think, reasonable in many of these cases. This is just a snapshot of our year-end debt balances. This was shown back in May. We have separated the park board debt here have been combined with another type. And then we have the history of outstanding debt. This is through 2023. It does not include the current bond issue. So back to that particular question, we're issuing 128.41 million, and generally speaking, we're paying off something close to $75 to $100 million a year in levy-supported, revenue-supported, assessment-supported debt. So there is, as we've seen on these charts here, generally speaking, our debt is holding level with sometimes a slight bump up or a slight bump down, except for that extra project that was the PSB building a few years ago. As far as the question of bond ratings, we just had the rating agencies do an annual update, and then when we go to sell bonds, we do a specific, go through a specific rating analysis with them. Fitch just completed the annual update and maintained our rating as you see it here. Standard & Poor's and Fitch will both be talking with us in detail during the next month as we put the official statement on the market or get ready to put it on the marketplace. I don't expect any change in the bond rating. What's been going on in the world, of course, commercial property has been hit nationally, and that changes the allocation of the tax burden for everyone. So that's not a particular surprise, but the fact that our history with the financial performance of the city has been relatively strong, the balanced budget being put forward. I'll talk on a couple other issues here related to this, but before I go on, we do have a stakeholder or investor webpage, and that's listed right here, minneapolisbonds.bondlink.com. At some point, we get a minute, you want to take a look at that, we're happy to answer any questions. That particular site is helpful when we go to sell the bonds from the standpoint of it's a resource that the bond analyst will go to get more information about the city.
Excuse me, Mr. Hoppe, Commissioner Payne?
Thank you, Mr. President. I am reviewing some documentation that was produced by the Local Taxes Advisory Task Force. That was a task force that was created as part of the 2023 tax bill. And, you know, I'm still kind of consuming the content of it. This was released back in February, though. And they're getting into a lot of the strategy, or, well, they make some recommendations on the use of sales taxes, but they don't necessarily give hard proposals, but have some kind of larger principles. And they're comparing and contrasting the existing statutes around local taxes, which they highlight. And some of it is that, you know, some of the restrictions on local taxes are very targeted around capital projects. And I was wondering, is there like a broad strategy that the city has when it comes to local sales taxes as it relates to capital projects versus making a decision to do debt financing and issuing bonds? Do we kind of like have a standard set of principles around that, or is this really market conditions and frankly even political conditions at the state legislature? Because I know sometimes it takes action at the state to implement sales taxes. I'm just curious if you have any perspective to share on that.
President Brandt and Commissioner Payne and members of the board, I'm going to have to defer that question to the CFO or the budget team. Once it's determined that projects are going to be bonded, and we know right away what the funding is for those, that's where the bank investment and debt team steps in.
Got it. That makes sense. Thank you.
Next on this slide, here's a little history for you as far as AAA Minnesota tax exempt municipal rates going from, I believe that's 3 months up to roughly 30 years, so what we might refer to as the term structure of interest rates for, basically, these are mostly state of Minnesota type securities where their yields are at, not necessarily the coupons, but the yields. And so I put this in here as a reference, going on the bottom right there, you see back in 2021, rates were really low. We know that. It was very advantageous to the city, and the rates have been creeping up with the green line from 2022. This is about, these dates are the dates that we sold bonds back in these past periods. And then September 12th of 2023, that's at the highest. Right now, we're down a little bit from that, maybe 50 basis points. So where are we going to end up with our bond sale? I would say still in the neighborhood of 22 to 23. Lots of things are going on right now. If the Federal Reserve reduces interest rates, that would impact the short term of the taxable market, but we're tax exempt. In the tax exempt market, those yields don't necessarily track one for one with the taxable market. Generally speaking, it should be favorable for us.
Commissioner Payne, do you have another question? Okay, Mr. Hoppe, one question. Does your chart suggest that rates are already coming down for municipals in Minnesota, even without a rate cut by the Fed? Or is that in anticipation, or is it just because of the difference in the markets that you just described?
President Brandt and members of the board, generally speaking, interest rates have been coming down. Of course, we've seen them. Let me flip to the next slide, and we'll see a little more story here. This is a sample 10-year bond. You can going back 10 years, and you can see it's very volatile. And the green lines are where we've sold in the past. And so you can see several months back, and these are again the same kind of bonds that we're referencing, tax-exempt Minnesota munis. Interest rates have been coming down here recently. The economy drives the decisions of the Fed, and so I guess this would imply that things are continue to slow down a little bit, and everybody is expecting the Fed to drop interest rates, but they've been making these predictions for some time.
Sure. Thank you.
This is a picture of the overlapping debt. Again, you've seen this before. Generally speaking, the school district is a pretty substantial piece, as is the county. These 7 bullet points here, I kind of summarize some of the strengths or key characteristics that we want to think about as we're going to sell bonds and what we look like to investors. We're a very stable organization financially. It takes a lot of work to get there at times. We have a diversified set of revenues, such as sales tax revenue, property tax revenue, enterprise revenue from the utility type fees. We plan our budget for multiple purposes. In this particular case, I'm focused on the capital improvement budget. Our debt levels are moderate, in some cases, I would say low. We have a great bond rating and stable governance. Financial management also has been consistent and stable, so we get that item cited from the bond rating agencies. The bond sales risk, that can be plus or minus. Right now, I think we're in favorable conditions for selling these bonds. We typically have a half a dozen underwriting syndicates or parties come to bid on our bonds, and usually it's a very tight spread for most of the bidders that come to us. So I can go back to the awarding resolution or the authorizing resolution, but that's kind of the background presentation we wanted to cover along with asking for your approval of these two resolutions.
If I could ask a question that sort of draws on the mayor's budget proposal from last week. As I read the proposal as an amateur, I noticed that both of the next year's budget and the 2026 budget are built on the city taking in less revenue than it has expenses, which I assume means that the difference would be made up through budget reserves. And I've advocated for that, particularly in the midst of the pandemic, but I'm wondering if you have any sense as to how, in terms of percentages of general fund expenses, how far the budget reserve can go toward that magic 17% figure that we have striven for historically before it starts to alarm people who are rating our credit.
President Brandt and members of the board, commissioners, again, I'm going to defer to the CFO and the budget staff for that intricate planning. Generally speaking, when organizations have reasonable targets, part of what the bond rating agencies are looking at is your ability to manage to that target, whether it's 17%, 13%, whatever. So it has something to do with real connectivity there. But beyond, and we do know that for multiple reasons, it's not uncommon to have a budget surplus at the end of the year, whether it's vacant positions or whatnot. And also some planning, as we've seen, does include using reserves, but in the intricacies of the current proposal and questions on that, I'm afraid I'll have to defer.
Okay, we'll have a chance to talk with her next month. You want to present the resolutions, or are you ready for a motion, or Commissioner Benny?
Thank you, President Brandt. This is a small comment for my colleagues on the board, but in the list of projects under the various purpose bonds, that's where you'll find the park projects. And I think the definitions or the project descriptions came over, but there was some specificity lost. It looks like, park equipment, upgrades and things. Those are each and every one of those line items is identified for a particular park based on our equity metrics. So it just didn't come through on the list, so I wanted to point that out. The other thing I'll comment and say thank you to you is that you did separate out the park board's item there on that. Slide number 7, I believe, or 6. I have a question. I have a comment or kind of a question. I believe that then that debt balance or the debt that's served there for the park board items in this various purpose bonding is paid for by the park board. Once the debt's incurred, the park board actually repays their portion of the debt. Correct?
President Brandt, Commissioner Abney, and commissioners. That's pretty much across the board. Whatever the type of debt is, is channeled back to the fund that's connected to that, and that fund has its revenues, it has a capital expense or the debt service expense and operating expenses, but it is tied back to the fund.
That's right. I just want people to understand it's not coming out of the city's general fund in any way. It's coming out of the park board's general fund. So, okay, thank you.
Mr. Hoppe, I have a couple questions related to the park board. First, I was surprised not to see a figure in here for parkway paving, which is a perennial matter on the city's list of capital expenditures, and I wondered if that's because, to your knowledge, is the city using cash from some other source for that, like MSA? I don't think those are MSA routes.
Point of information, that's PV001 in the city budget. That's the paving budget, PV001.
And Commissioner Benny, do you find that listed in this list?
No, I didn't see it in this
Okay.
list, so they may be paying for it out of other forms of funding.
Very good. I'll let Commissioner Benny's answer stand. And the other question I have regarding the Park Board is, the Park Board is in the process of undertaking studies, I believe in cooperation with Public Works, that are intended to determine better what its storm sewer system in the parks are and what capital needs those may have. Does the money that's being sold for storm drains and tunnels and so on, storm sewers, does any of that flow to the Park Board, or is that strictly going to Public Works for non-Park Board projects?
President Brandt, and Commissioners, again, I would have to bring Public Works here to answer some of these questions, and it does kind of connect back to what was discussed a minute ago, where the bonds that we sell are being paid by the fund involved. So if it's Public Works or if it's a Parks, then you got that mapping going on. To the extent that there's some stormwater work being done, I'm not sure where Public Works has brought that in, or the Park Board has brought that in, under which detailed project.
Thank you. And I believe one of the question in one of the bonding resolutions, I believe it's the award resolution, there is a reference to the city's debt committee, which I was surprised to see was a two-person committee. For some reason, I thought it was somewhat larger. Should the board decide that among the duties of the staff person yet to be hired should be participating in the city's debt committee, is that something that's acceptable to finance?
President Brandt and Commissioners, that's something that we should refer to the CFO to discuss. I will confirm that in the past, the position of the BET did have a representative on the debt committee, but there isn't a person right now,
Sure.
So that's where we're at here.
And
there's
and you would know, having served in that position
Yes.
and also serving in finance, I imagine.
Yes, and there's two, gets into the weeds a little bit, but it gives you a little more background. There's two particular groups here. There's a bigger committee that meets just to kind of review the big picture kind of stuff as far as debt and our capacity and our plans and that kind of stuff. In this particular resolution, as I mentioned, we have authorized resolution and award resolution. So what you're doing here is you're giving this bond committee, the CFO and myself, the approval to approve the underwriter's bid to take their offer. So it's similar to any other procurement that the city is doing, where multiple proposals come in, you evaluate the proposals, and you award to the best one, and you have a committee frequently that is involved with that. In this particular kind of procurement, we spell out most of the terms. It's rather rigid, and it gets down to mostly being about price. And usually we're going to go with the lowest true interest cost. And so there are two different groups here, and the one, this bond committee here, is just for that purpose.
I think it's appropriate for someone to move the resolutions. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Councilmember Payne, thank you. A second?
Second?
Thank you, Commissioner Benny. The clerk will take the roll.
Commissioner Benny.
Aye.
Payne.
Aye.
Chuktai. Aye. President Brandt.
Aye.
There are 4 ayes.
Congratulations, Mr. Hoppy. You achieved a quorum, which is exactly the number needed to approve a bond sale. So Thank you. And you now have a receive and file item, a memo regarding reapproving the project authorization and appropriation and bond issuance for the advanced meter infrastructure project. And if you can give us a brief presentation.
Generally speaking, this is a receive and file item, and so we don't prepare a presentation on this.
Fair enough. With that noted, unless there are any questions, I'll ask the clerk to receive and file this item. The announcements are next on our agenda, and I have two announcements I would like to present. One has to do with the Charter Commission. You may recall that we approved a resolution at our, I believe it was our May meeting, calling on the Charter Commission to consider a charter change and place it on the ballot that would expand the board to 7 members, so we have a tie-breaking member, and also to have that third person be elected from the public. I was invited to come present to the Charter Commission last month, I believe it was, and Commissioner Benny attended as well. Unfortunately, the Charter Commission Amendment Review Committee did not see the wisdom of our proposal, and so that's that. They, I believe, do not believe the Board of Estimates should exist, and yeah, they were fairly clear about that, and they also disputed the validity of the public vote that in 2009 the public supported continuing the Board of Estimate by a 2/3 vote in the face of a proposal to abolish it. And so I have spoken just earlier today with Commissioner Payne and suggested that it might be helpful if the City Council would make the same request to the Charter Commission. It might carry some more weight than those of us part-time public servants who have been advancing this. Of course, there's a third option, and that is a petition route, which would be in an election year for probably everybody up here. But that's where it stands right now, and we will have probably further conversations. I'd like to talk to all of you about it. And then the other item I'd like to update you on is the Board of Estimate and Taxation staffer. We have been going back and forth with what's called the JAQ. I couldn't tell you what that stands for, but it's necessary to hire somebody. And there exists a difference of opinion, I would say probably mostly between some of the board members and between the CFO about what should be in that. And so I'm trying to set up a meeting to resolve that before Labor Day weekend. Commissioner Chugtai, I actually sent you a request to let us know which of the proposed dates would work for you. I sent it last Friday, and I followed it up with a phone call today. So if you could get back to me within 24 hours, that'd be very helpful. And Commissioner Payne.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I see these staff conversation very much related with this Charter Commission conversation. We had this conversation briefly in passing, but it's my strong belief that if this body's to exist, it should exist fully functioning with the resources necessary to do this very important work, or it shouldn't exist, right? And so I think we should be really committed to this being a high-functioning body and take that to its logical end. And alternatively, if the logical end is that the body shouldn't exist, then we should have that conversation seriously too. And I think that's a conversation that I'm certainly going to be taking back to City Council, and I'm sure along with Vice President Chugtai.
Thank you. And I see no further business to bring before the board unless somebody else has an announcement. Okay, with that, we stand adjourned.